Hi there. Sorry for the long hiatus. I've been working on several videos all at once. Today, I'm bringing you the first installment in a new series breaking down the long, complicated, and at times unhinged history of the Big Brother fandom. Mostly because deep dives into the weird intricacies of fandom culture is an entire genre on YouTube now. But for a show like Big Brother, understanding the viewpoint of the fans themselves is arguably more relevant compared to most other reality shows. To quote the pioneer of reality TV criticism, Andy Dennert, Big Brother is not CBS's most popular reality show, but it arguably has the most devoted reality TV audience, one that obsesses over it literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 3 full months. Perhaps more than any other reality series, Big Brother engenders a love-hate relationship with its fans, as it manages to be provoking, entertaining, insufferable, and hateful all at once. And they were saying that in 2005. As a group, we Big Brother fans have a long-standing reputation for being intense.
The fans that watch this show are all pieces.
And because it's a show produced in real time, our looming presence has always been a major factor. So with this series, I hope to bring you a better understanding of how and why we're like this. Because I think the key to analyzing Big Brother is by understanding the three-way feedback mechanism between the audience, the producers, and the house guests. Once you're able to see how the actions and motivations of all three affect each other on a given season, then you've reached the higher plane of enlightened Big Brother critique.
Open and receiving to the energy that is placed in your lap today.
In this series, we'll dive into our side of this equation, charting our growth from the early caveman days of message boards and fan websites to today's more crowded landscape of Twitter stans and podcasters, to see how as an internet community we've evolved over time and the interesting ways we've impacted the game and the narrative of the show. And I couldn't think of a better first topic for this series than the lost art of fans hiring planes to fly banners over the Big Brother house. It's dramatic, it's over the top, and it is always hilarious to me, just to be able to witness how invested and motivated some fans can get. Even if it does kind of violate the sanctity of the game in which keeping things secret is pretty important. But if you've ever felt that hopeless urge to astrally project into the house to alter the game, then perhaps you'll appreciate the stories of those fans who have transcended the barrier. This is the history of the aerial assault of the Big Brother fandom. To properly tell this story, I've had to dip my toe into what up to this point has remained uncharted waters. I have to take us back to the forbidden darkest chapter of BB history that we all try to ignore, because watching even a single episode will bring a curse upon you and your loved ones. I'm talking, of course, about Big Brother 1.
Last night, tension was at an all-time high as the house guests were preparing to finish their bicycle challenge.
Also known as the most boring 70 episodes of television ever made. Despite having almost zero resemblance to the show we know today, Big Brother 1, as it turns out, is absolutely essential to the history of the banner planes. Because when confronted with an unprecedented shit show, the already rabid, extremely online fan base took matters into their own hands in ways that no one could have expected. BB1 was a lot like clickbait. You get everyone's attention through the unprecedented novelty of the premise, but once you're in the thick of it, there's not much actual content to be found.
By Thursday night, the 11,000 dominoes were nearly in place.
Yet somehow it was on TV a suffocating 6 nights a week. After the first few weeks of pulling in 20 million plus viewers, a huge drop-off occurred as the season slogged into August. It didn't help that at the same time, the first season of Survivor continued to do absolutely huge numbers.
You remember Richard Hatch?
Yes, I do.
Alliances, secrets, power struggles. You know, a competition. Meanwhile, back in Studio City, anyone caught trying to play the game or detracting from the Kumbaya group cohesion was swiftly punished and sent home courtesy of the call-in fan vote. With the majority of the casual viewing audience purged from the roster, the only ones left still watching were the diehards. The ones hooked in by the online experience of live feeds and the community that sprung up around them. And the ones invested enough and bold enough to breach the bubble. The first intrusion from the outside world was pretty tame. In late July, a pair of screenwriters were so bored with the show they decided to create their own entertainment by commissioning fake newspaper articles about the public's reaction to Big Brother and then launching them inside tennis balls into the backyard. Clinton speaks out against Big Brother. I think it's a national disgrace. A relatively harmless prank, but it had an unexpected impact on Chicken George, who, a few weeks in, was struggling a lot with being away from his family. The idea that the public was not totally enamored with the cast made him question everything, and the producers put together a packet of reassuring letters from home to calm him down. Also, fun fact, the screenwriters responsible for these tennis balls would, 16 years later, go on to write the greatest film ever made.
You have 1 week to reconnect with them, or you're going to be stuck in that cat for the rest of your life.
A few weeks later, on August 23rd, the sky became a main character, when a small single-engine plane flew over the house bearing the ominous message, "Big Brother is worse than you think. Get out now." I know, it sounds like one of us from the future trying to send a message back through time like McConaughey in Interstellar. But in actuality, it was this man, Jeff Oswald, better known to the BB community as Media Jammers, an outfit dedicated to disrupting and undermining the Big Brother train wreck. A professor of media studies who has written about the BB1 banners described the Media Jammers project as a sort of anti-corporate, anti-consumerist, online activist group, trying to subvert and hijack the show through acts of online Robin Hoodism. To me, at least, the Media Jammers website reads a lot like someone who saw Fight Club the year prior and felt really inspired by its bring all this crumbling down, chaotic neutral worldview. Oswald's master plan was simple, and he presented it to the house guests a week later by commissioning 4 more banners. Big Brother, losers talk, heroes walk together. 9 losers plus 1 wealthy loser, or 10 winners. There is dignity in leaving, and my personal favorite, it's bad, take control, question Julie Chen. Media Jammers was trying to stage a revolt among the house guests, but what they couldn't control is that in the wake of their stunt, the rest of the fan base was made aware that for $300, you could just call a guy at the Whiteman Airport in Pacoima, and within a couple hours, your message is flying over the house. And the floodgates were opened.
Another big cyber moment this week when a plane flew over the Big Brother house with a sign that read, "Vote George out, save Britney."
Around this time, a large contingency of the fans had turned against Chicken George because of this overblown controversy surrounding George's family.
George's wife is in the middle of a campaign to banish Britney and save her man.
Britney! See you later! It's all a popularity contest in Big Brother, but we can have alliances.
Trying to win the game here, and I'm trying to do the best thing for George.
I'm not sure why this had such a negative reaction. Julie Chen herself confirmed that the Save George campaign only accounted for like 700 votes. But again, the guiding principle of Big Brother 1 is that doing literally anything to try to win is morally forbidden.
I can't believe that you would actually mobilize a town against one candidate. To me, that's really plain unfair.
These conflict-averse fans would be horrified by how BB fans today come up with extremely creative ways to gather AFP votes. Against this backdrop, the flurry of anti-George banners started to take its toll on an already worried chicken man.
I have been attacked by the air! By the speaker!
This is not war, you know. We are your friends here.
Airplane. What's going on with this airplane scene?
We don't know what's going on with the airplane scene. We have no control over that.
I'm a lot stronger than the damn airplane, man, and I'm not quitting. For some reason, this bub out there wants me to quit.
A few days later, on September 2nd, the revolution was joined by another pioneer of fan interference. The first wall yeller, a school teacher in the LA area forever known to the BB community as Miss Megaphone.
Thanks.
Working in tandem with other live feeders over the phone, Miss Megaphone infiltrated the CBS lot on 5 separate occasions to shout messages to whatever house guests were outside, ranging from information about upcoming twists, the declining ratings, how to turn on the pool jets, the upcoming election, but most importantly, that the house guests needed to unite against the producers.
Peter! Get out!
And the combined effects of these different intrusions from beyond the house finally radicalized our unlikely hero.
You want to know what I figured out, Eddie? This place is a two-way street.
Oh, you guys pissed off George. I don't know what you did, but you pissed him off.
As with many wild moments in BB history, it all started when George called a house meeting.
And what they were trying to do was to break us all apart, okay? They were trying to pit us all against us. And what this whole thing comes down to, you guys, is this. That is, if we all walk out as one, we're all winners. And the people from the plane, they were telling us all along.
This is full-on a labor strike.
What happens if we leave? There ain't no show.
This is the language of the oppressed working class. This is Newsies.
Pull a Turnhurst! They think we're nothing! Are we nothing?
We got a chance to change history.
In the span of a few days, the fans had seized control of the narrative of the show and had become honest-to-God characters themselves.
The sky is friendly.
Supposedly, I don't trust the sky worth a piss. I don't trust the sky. I don't trust the megaphone lady. I don't trust these people.
After a long discussion, the house guests decided that they would all walk together at the next live show to make a grand statement about sticking together or whatever.
Tomorrow's gonna be a long day too, I'll tell you that. Between what they're throwing at us, between planes and coming over the wall and music playing and some goofy bitches yelling at us.
And by the way, minutes after this all goes down, Miss Megaphone dropped by to shout some more messages of support before getting chased by CBS security guards across the river and through the streets of Studio City in a legit-ass low-speed car chase all the way to the interstate. But ultimately, the revolution wasn't meant to be, and there are several reasons why. That night, the producers addressed the house and, in so many words, strongly suggested that they were preparing to hire scabs to replace everybody, and informed them that by leaving the game, they would be forfeiting any stipend money they had accrued so far. On top of that, several banners flew that weekend pleading with the house guests to abandon the revolt, including a few from family members. The momentum dwindled, their unity was splintered, and the revolution was quashed.
The chicken man's staying.
The house returned to boring routine for the final weeks of the season, but banners did continue to fly all the way to finale night. In total, over 85 messages were delivered since Oswald kicked off the insanity in late August. But the vast majority were just messages of support and shout-outs from fans, nothing subversive or fun, really. The anti-George banners also continued to fly after the Save George controversy and the failed walkout, and the next time he was up for eviction, or banishment, sorry, the fans kicked him out by a pretty wide margin.
I probably would have blown your television show, but...
Well, it sounded like at one point that's what you wanted to do.
That's why I'm sitting here, huh?
But before we move on, I have to tell you one more story that completely baffled me while researching this video, and I can't let it be lost to the sands of time. Our two pioneers weren't quite finished yet. Though Jeff Oswald had done his interloping from across the country, he decided to fly to California for some in-person shenanigans. The day before the finale, he hits up the Whiteman Airport to meet the two guys who had flown all the banners, and then Jerry of Blue Yonder Aviation actually gives him a free flight over the Big Brother house. Which seems fair, since the banner trend had made these guys literally thousands of dollars. Then Oswald met up with his megaphone-wielding co-conspirator for a final run at the house, in which they encouraged the final three to trash the house. Only minimal resistance this time. The next day, the pair arrived in Studio City once more for their final mission, infiltrating the crowd at the live finale, which allegedly was entirely made up of temps hired by a staffing company. Miss Megaphone gets spotted by security right away and thrown out. They definitely knew her face by this point. But Jeff is able to blend in and solid snake his way past the checkpoints in an incredible sequence of events. He cuts through an adjacent studio and, true bonus points for this one, blends in by grabbing some snacks from a craft services table. At one point, he gets stopped by someone with a clipboard, and Jeff gives them what has to be the greatest fake name ever, Baxter Henley. Seems legit, right this way, sir, into the studio audience. When third place finisher Curtis exits the house and walks over for his interview with Julie, guess who's right there front and center? It's Baxter. Afterward, he moves to the area outside the house for the final wrap-up segment, and again works his way into prime on-screen territory. He doesn't do anything disruptive, but just knowing that he is there at the end of it all is so poetic and fitting. Julie's wrapping up the show talking about
your participation made this truly an interactive show.
All while the man who almost brought this crumbling down is mere feet away. Before leaving, Jeff even shook hands with an unwitting, soon-to-be-replaced executive producer Paul Roomer, the man who Jeff has spent the entire summer ridiculing. I salute you, Jeff. Not just for inventing the banner plane genre, but for setting the absurd tone for what it means to be an obsessive, overly invested Big Brother fan. The new production team brought in to save and rework Big Brother had a lot to contend with to accomplish their goal of making the show more watchable. Retool the game to give it that competitive Survivor quality, make it edgier, make it sexier.
Would you get mad if I cracked you over the head with this?
New executive producer Arnold Shapiro told an interviewer, "We've tried to come up with things that are going to promote conflict. Last time, the contestants got so bored they wound up turning against the producers." Well, that's only partially true. It's not that they were too bored, it's that we were too bored. And now, given the changes to the game's format, how would Shapiro's team address the threat of outside interference, which could have even more serious implications? The original producers had been a little too eager to show off the banner craze the first time around. By including so many on the edited episodes, they only encouraged more and more people to pay for their own banner. But they even went the extra mile of filming a full-on segment with Jerry the banner guy, though I'm really glad that they did just for all the footage it provided me. I was fully prepared to fill this video with screen caps I took in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The new producers decided to take a more cautious approach. Though the house would be inundated with banners nearly every day, they are almost entirely absent from the edited episodes of Big Brother 2, which is a real shame because this was the golden era of the banner plane. 95 messages flew in total. Which means that the live feed viewing experience had this entire separate meta-narrative fan house guest dialogue going on, unseen to the casual viewer. A great example of that disconnect is the toothbrush incident, one of the more infamous moments of the new cutthroat nature of retooled BB.
I'm gonna take care of what I did. I apologize. I'm sorry.
At the time, Shannon tried to cover her bases by telling Hardy she accidentally broke the toothbrush by knocking it off the counter. But by the next morning, the real truth of what happened is suddenly common knowledge.
In this house, no matter who you are or what you do, we're gonna find out in a matter of minutes. It spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, it spreads like wildfire because the fans had a banner ready to go the next morning. But the episode doesn't really divulge that. In many ways, the banner planes were like BB Twitter before Twitter existed. Sky Twitter, where every post costs $300 and instead of a 280 or 140 character count, it's a much more stifling 45. Which means the fans had to come up with some creative ways to get their point across. Vote Will, Krista, Mike is using you. Love to Hardy, Nicole, Monica, Bunky, Kent. Chilltown 4 need to go. Justin and Krista, kinky knife play expels Justin. Yeah, they didn't actually know the exact reason Justin was kicked out for a little while.
I think it might have been a knife to your neck.
You'll also see that a lot of the banners began with the phrase web sees or net sees, a kind of shorthand to signal that the live feed watchdogs held all of the information. They had the receipts. They're even flying live feed timestamps. It's wild. No longer wielding all the power of the call and vote, I think the fans used the banners to maintain some form of influence over the game. And I think many of them understood the implications the banners could have. As one GeoCities page described it, a good banner can change the game. A bad banner can do the same. If you've ever watched BB2 and thought, wow, this escalated quickly, the non-Chilltown side of the house seems so fervent in their belief that they are the righteous good people tasked with taking out the villains. Well, you can't ignore the fact that the house guests are constantly getting aerial feedback that backs up that viewpoint. And more generally, throughout the season, you can see a lot of house guests justifying their actions in relation to what the sky has told them.
Let me say this. Yesterday, Hardy got a banner that said he was a two-faced, lying snake in the grass. I can't argue with that banner. I said, it's a real shame that you went from being America's choice to being a lying snake in the grass in less than 2 weeks.
But again, the fact that this is mostly confined to live feeds means that entire storylines and controversies are completely absent from the season, including one I had never heard about myself. If you're familiar with the great meloriatosis ruse of Big Brother 12, let me introduce you to its more controversial prequel. Yeah, for like a day or so during week 3, Will briefly toyed with the idea of telling everyone in the house he had cancer. Here he is pretending to tell Shannon and Mike about it in hopes that the other house guests will overhear them talking.
I mean, the prognosis is not good, but I'm hopeful. I mean, I don't know. I'm not comfortable telling the other people in this house at this point. Maybe, word would get out one way or another with CBS helping me find someone who matches.
Will built his persona as the ruthless manipulator willing to lie about anything, but I think this one was way too much for the fans. Plus, he made the rookie mistake of calling out the banner flyers directly.
It doesn't take much to give blood.
No, but I mean, there's a national shortage and the average person doesn't give it. It's amazing how many people will watch this show on the internet and send a boring little banner, concerning superficiality, across the sky in LA, and people won't go down to the blood bank and donate blood. That concerns me a lot.
Now you fucked up! You have fucked up now!
As Will tells the story, the next day he was literally walking over to tell Kent the sob story when the plane flew overhead. The beans were spilled and Will abandoned the plan, which he should be thankful for, because it would have been a disaster. I mean...
Once we got in and did the biopsy, found out that I did have a cancerous tumor.
Now that I know about all this, Matt's sick wife stunt 9 years later seems more tame by comparison. And in terms of mitigating backlash, I think Matt was smart to pick a much more rare disease.
You said it's a 1 in whatever million, whatever.
0.9 in a million.
I did recently ask Matt about all this, and he tells me that going into his season, he actually did not know about Will's original ruse at the time. Purely a coincidental strategy. But if anything, it gives us a good data point to compare the differences between modern BB and the Banner era. Matt benefited from a closed environment. Back in 2001, the saboteur was flying overhead every few hours.
And I'll annoy them all day and all night.
I also really enjoy all of the banners delivered and signed by various Big Brother fan websites. An entire community I have obviously spent a lot of time digging through. BanishKrista.com, ILoveBunky.com. Wait, what is WoofyBears.com? Oh, my favorite is probably this one, courtesy of WillShorts.com, a faithfully dedicated blogger documenting how often Will would wear this pair of shorts.
Will, why don't you change your shorts more often? They're really cool shorts! Exclamation, please. Perfect!
This is absolutely my kind of people. I mean, I literally own a website in tribute to a houseguest t-shirt. But this site is also great because it gives a glimpse into what the banner procurement process was like. First off, you needed $300, which is about $480 today adjusted for inflation. If you didn't have that, a lot of members of the community engaged in early forms of crowdsourced funding by organizing PayPal donation drives, which I think is pretty remarkable for 2001 internet. Once you had the money, you just had to call our man Jerry from Blue Yonder Aviation and give your message to his cheerful, helpful assistant, George Boswell.
You are expected to expect the unexpected.
Yeah, it feels like I'm making this up, but no. After the banners had derailed his entire Big Brother game, George decided to give that damn airplane man a call, and Jerry offered him a job. George spent the summer of 2001 in a hot-ass airport hangar with no air conditioning.
I was sweating so bad!
Serving as the intermediary between the fans and the new house guests. And it was apparently the greatest summer of his life. Why does every facet of Chicken George feel like a performance art piece? Finally, after a summer of aerial bombardment invisible to the TV edit, let's talk about the one banner that was dramatic enough to convince the producers to include it on the show. And once again, everything was derailed by a man named Jeff.
It's a banner plane.
Oh my
Hardy! What?
Full Will and hot tub in hot tub and betrayed hurt Jeff. Oh.
Nicole's husband Jeff had been sending these heartfelt messages of encouragement all season long. But then, the night before Bunky's eviction, everyone got really drunk and some questionable stuff happened.
Something was misconstrued on the internet about what had happened in the hot tub between Will and Nicole.
Nothing happened last night.
Nothing happened in that hot tub.
I kind of hate that I'm the type of person who, of course, has read the full transcripts of Hot Tub Night. And if you feel compelled to join that sad club, I encourage you to seek it out and form your own conclusions. But be warned, you're in for a wild tale of unbridled hedonism.
He sent one banner because of some nerds on the internet.
Nicole comes very close to quitting the show, until Jeff finally sends a follow-up banner.
Stay permanent Will for me.
I think this moment taught the producers that they could use the real-world implications between house guests and their families back home as a way to inject some TV drama. They have returned to that trope time and time again. And for the remaining BB2 cast, misconstrued or otherwise, this was a final reminder that no matter what, the net sees all. A few days later, on September 10th, the final banner of the season flew. Obviously, after the events of the next day, no one was really cool with low-flying aircraft in a densely populated area. But more generally, it would also prove to be the end of the chaotic banner era as a whole, thanks to a new set of rules and security measures implemented by the producers. Breaching the Big Brother bubble would now be much more difficult, but not impossible. Heading into 2002, the clampdown was swift. First, the producers hired a group of plane spotters to stay on the lookout for banners in the immediate area, and they would radio ahead if anything approached. For the house guests, if a plane did come, you weren't allowed to talk about what it said, and really you shouldn't even look up at all. I've even seen a rumor in multiple places that they hired a college intern to skulk around the Whiteman Airport for 2 summers. If you're out there and this was your job, please get into contact with me. I have so many questions. Given the rule changes, frequent flyers of the community like the Banner Bunch all but folded up shop. But the fans did fly one last message in defiance. Big Brother 3 robs fans. No vote, no free feeds, no banners. The Wild West days were officially over, and maybe it was a necessary part of growing up. In the same way that adding the power of veto finally completed the formula of the Big Brother game, the removal of banner plane interference helped to finally legitimize the process. Though it does annoy me even more that they went through all of this trouble to enforce the BB quarantine, but they still didn't feel it was necessary to sequester the jury? For the next few years, all was quiet, though occasionally there would be a flutter of excitement over just a regular aerial advertisement flying nearby. My favorite example of this kind of fake out was in Big Brother 4, when the house guests caught a glimpse of an ad for the upcoming premiere of Survivor Pearl Islands, which had some of them speculating that it was some kind of secret message about the jury house being located in Panama.
Everybody, drop your expectations.
No real attempt was made again until 2005, during that concentrated dose of chaotic drama we know as the Summer of Secrets. And it makes sense why it was this particular moment of BB6. This was in week 6, right after Kaser was voted back into the game. He conceded the pressure cooker HOH comp to Jen, and then found himself back on the block for a boomerang backdoor. And after the veto ceremony, all hell broke loose.
He keeps saying, I'm gonna eat your dog, pepperoni pizza.
This was a day on live feeds known as the Day of Chaos. The fans who had just voted Kaser back in perhaps wanted to seek a little revenge, or at least take part in said chaos. The next day, a user going by the name Susie appeared on the Joker's update forum, announcing she had booked a slot with the banner company, and more importantly, they didn't have that pesky intern hanging around the airport anymore. The next afternoon, Susie's message flew over the house. J Blow and Yap Roll. America wants your DOR. Which stands for Departure on Request, aka Please Self-Evict. I don't know, I maybe would have workshopped this one a little bit more. But to be fair, it was a direct reference to something Howie said. On feeds, however, the reception was a little murky. The whole house knew a banner had flown, but most of them never got a good look at it before getting called inside on lockdown. And technically they weren't even allowed to talk about it, even if they did. Maggie definitely saw it, but from what I can tell, she mostly kept it to herself. And it's not like it revealed any new information. This is just one data point of many across the season in which the friendship gets confirmation that America dislikes them.
How do you feel that America hates you, April?
If anything, this banner showed that in order to pull off an effective banner in the new era, you needed to pick a moment where the house guests couldn't be sequestered inside so easily. Perhaps maybe an endurance comp? It's finally time for my all-time favorite banner, which would also prove to be the last banner, the final mission. And I assume you all know about this one, but allow me to give the behind-the-scenes play-by-play. Week 4 was a bit of a turning point in Big Brother 8 as the game moved from the more straightforward early evictions to the bigger fish.
It would be Nick of those two that I would want going. Maybe that's what we should do.
Slam dunk for me, Nick.
Nick. America's heartthrob, the Minnesota Zac Efron of BB-8 was in trouble. And even worse, he was being framed for America's very own hinky vote the week prior.
We had a golden opportunity to take advantage of backdooring him and get the weasel out of the house.
Whoever sent the banner acted fast, and the morning of the veto ceremony, a plane started to approach while everyone was waiting outside for the ceremony to start. But the producers were able to get everyone inside on lockdown before anything is seen. This first attempt was a failure, so the person behind the banner would have to regroup and try again. But before another run could be made, Allison Grodner decided to go on the offensive.
You won't stop, then I'll stop you!
On the morning of August 2nd, the day of the live eviction, our unsung hero Jerry received this cease and desist letter from the CBS lawyers. It has come to our attention that you are planning to fly a banner over the Big Brother house to notify the house guests that one of the house guests, Eric, is America's player. In light of the substantial damage your proposed action will cause to our client, and the fact that you have interfered with past productions of the program by flying banners over the Big Brother house, we fully intend to enforce our client's rights. Unless you confirm to me in writing by 1 p.m. today that you will abort your plan of action. Jerry had no choice. The jig was up and he was out of the game. Though he had enjoyed a, quote, symbiotic relationship with Big Brother and had even been featured on it back in 2000, this was now Allison's house. And in her first season as sole executive producer, Grodner had won. She had successfully prevented her first major crisis.
You look up and there's a banner that says, "We love Nick," and then it says, "Amber and Eric are liars."
Jerry swears it wasn't him, and I'm inclined to believe him. And just so you know, I spent an unnecessary amount of time trying to compare this plane and Jerry's plane. The rabbit holes I find myself just keep getting weirder. Regardless, for one final time, a banner completely assumed control of the narrative of the show.
Thanks to the freaking banner, I'm gonna be under a microscope that I shouldn't be under.
And though the banner doesn't spell out the America's player twist completely, Eric doesn't do himself any favors by being extremely bad at covering his bases.
Knew he was lying. Knew he was lying. I knew that was lying.
As soon as I saw the banner and saw Eric's name on it, it all fell into place.
And you probably know the rest of the story. Dick and Danielle splinter off from LNC and target Eric. He gets put on the block after veto, but ultimately is able to survive and keep the core LNC5 united. Oh, and meanwhile, Amber is probably at her most emotionally compromised point of the season. And it really doesn't help that she's also in her white girl with braids era. It seems fitting that this was the last real banner. The aerial assault of the first 2 seasons had served as a test for each new production team. The first group failed, the second group adapted, and now a subversive banner in 2007 served to test Grodner in her new role. And given that her team was beginning a new era of the show that would involve more game-implicating twists and producer manipulation, this banner feels like a symbolic gesture of the fan base.
Welcome to reality TV's first alliance of 10 million.
The BB fandom is not monolithic. We disagree with each other constantly. Sticking Stein in the middle of this chaotic ecosystem was a ticking time bomb, both in terms of his game and in our tendency to go kinda nuts in the month of August. And that's pretty much the end of our story. The following summer, we did see another unrelated banner fake out, but this time with a twist. The way Julie grills Michelle and Memphis about this, you know Grodner was pissed.
You saw an airplane banner fly over the backyard. Tell me, what was the first thing that came to mind when you saw it?
With the threat of legal action now abundantly clear, no pilot would be coming anywhere near the Big Brother house again. I did find one post on Twitter claiming that a banner flew during BB16, but no one in the house saw it or mentioned a plane on feed, so I don't know about the veracity of this one. Instead, fans in recent years have turned to the rich tradition of Miss Megaphone to get their messages across. My favorite one is probably the person who exposed Tommy and Christy from BB21 by just playing a clip of the show really loud.
Tommy being in this house could be an amazing thing for my game, or it could be a horrible thing.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the drone from BB18, which was less about sending a message and more so about seeing if it could be done. Joker's Updates rates Season 18 #1 on a sex doll. It is on YouTube, and other than the fact that it has a slur in the title, the narration they dubbed makes me want to die.
Oh! They've got on clothes! I better get out. Alright, I'll go back. Oh, look, Big Misha's down there.
Man, this week's care package is really weird. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that Big Brother fans have always been kind of ridiculous. Whether you condone fan interference or not, the banner planes provided unparalleled drama and comedy in the show's formative years. Though it inevitably needed to end, the aerial assault was our way of coming to terms with the fact that we are imprisoned every year by a show that we both love and also kind of hate. I'll let you know once I've come to terms with it myself.
Stabbing.
RR. Banishment.com. I don't have a computer!